Hi everyone, today we're going to talk about how to make jasmine rice. So we often get questions from our readers, what type of white rice should I be buying? What should I be using for fried rice? The answer is jasmine. Jasmine has like a really perfect texture for fried rice and for just enjoying on its own. It's not too starchy, it's not too dry, it's perfect for stir frying. So today we're going to talk about how to cook jasmine rice in a rice cooker. I'm gonna show you how to use the rice cooker cups, and I'm also gonna show you the famed finger trick that all little Asian kids learn from their parents to cook rice. And I'm also gonna show you how to cook it in a pot on the stove if you don't have a rice cooker. It's not quite as set it and forget it, but it is pretty easy. In terms of the type of jasmine rice you should be buying, look for jasmine rice that was grown in Thailand. Thai jasmine rice tends to be very high quality. I wouldn't say we have a loyalty to a certain brand of jasmine rice, but I will say that we do generally look for Thai jasmine rice. We buy ours in bulk at Costco. It is a Thai brand. I actually don't even know what brand it is. So let's start with the rice cooker method. Okay, so when using the rice cooker, there are two ways you can do it. You can measure the rice with the cup that came with the rice cooker and then fill it to the proper line, or you can just use this finger trick. The finger trick is a sort of, I don't know, it's like a family, like so many Asian families teach this to young kids. Making rice is like the first job that Kaitlin and I learned how to do in the kitchen. It's one of those really easy ways to measure the amount of water for the amount of rice, and the rice basically comes out perfectly every time. So I'll show you that. But first, let's start with the rice cooker cup method. Cooking rice in a rice cooker is the easiest method. It's probably the most used appliance in our house. And when I went off to college, having my own rice cooker in my room was a priority. I had a Korean roommate, and that rice cooker was running probably 3 or 4 times a week. Even though we both still ate in the dining hall, we would make rice and we would make our little cold tofu dishes in our room. And then when I moved into my own apartment, I got the big girl rice cooker. I got one in this size because I was like, one day I'm gonna have my own family and I'm gonna need to cook a lot of rice and not just a tiny amount of rice. And so I bought this ridiculously large size, which I think we have yet to grow into in our house, but I know one day we will. So essentially, you just fill your rice cooker with the desired amount of cups. The minimum line you see in this rice cooker is 3 cups. So the finger trick is really only going to be relevant to you if you are doing either an inexacted amount like 3.5 or something like that, or you're sub 3 cups. Then you're going to want to use the finger trick. So a little known fact is that the cup that comes with your rice cooker is actually a US 3/4 cup measure. So if you ever lose that little cup that came with your rice cooker, just use 3/4 of a cup, you'll be fine. So this could be confusing because oftentimes on that little rice cooker cup, it'll say 1 cup. It is not one standard US cup. It is just 1 cup according to the rice cooker manufacturers in Japan or wherever your rice cooker came from. So this is how we store rice at my parents' house. And actually in my house, I store rice very similarly. I just use one of those airtight cereal containers. But this is a great way to store it in an airtight container and have a nice big opening to scoop it. My mom also puts these silica packets in it. This just keeps moisture from getting into your rice. That'll prevent it from molding or going bad. So if you find these silica packets in various food items, just, they're not bad to reuse for this kind of application. So I'm gonna measure a level 3/4 cup, and I'm gonna do 2 so that I can show you guys how to do the finger trick, because it is less than 3 cups. If I added 3, I would just fill the water to this number 3 line. If I added 4 to the 4 line, and so on and so forth. This is the largest rice cooker that this particular brand makes, which is a 10 cup. But we rarely make more than 3 cups. And sometimes we need less, so that's where the finger trick comes in handy. I will say with this particular model, which we highly recommend, we love this rice cooker. I think it's the Tiger JNP series. So this This is the rice cooker that we have. The brand is Tiger. They did not sponsor this video, and we're not being paid to say this. But all three of our households, mine, Kaitlin's, and my parents, have this rice cooker. And my sister, I think, has a smaller one. What's great about it is that it has one button, everyone. One. You just go like that. It goes from keep warm to cook. And then when it's cooked, it goes back to keep warm. That's all it does. And what's great about it is that it just cooks rice crazy fast. Depending on the amount that you're making, if you're making about 2 cups, it'll take, I think Justin and I timed it once, it takes about 11 minutes. So it's just like a lightning fast rice cooker. However, I will say that we have tried to make 10 cups of rice in here, and we have found that the rice can tend to cook unevenly. And I think part of the reason is because of that really fast cook time. It's just like it's not great for cooking more than like maybe 6 cups of rice. So that's something to keep in mind. But 6 cups of raw rice is going to give you about like close to 18 cups of cooked rice. That's a lot. So, you know, that's something to keep in mind. I've never even read the instruction manual on this thing. Maybe it says like, don't actually cook 10 cups of rice. Who knows? Long story short, we like rice cookers that are on the simpler side, just one button, and it does that one button job really well. These rice cookers that also make congee, or that can have different settings for brown rice or different settings for like porridge or whatever, they're a little bit more complicated, and they also tend to take longer to cook rice. So we used to have one that had like all these different buttons and like gadgetry on it, and it would take like 25 or 30 minutes to cook a batch of rice. So we were kind of like, maybe we get a different one. And that's how we landed on this one. Even though it may seem cool that these other rice cookers do all these different things and can cook brown rice and whatever, we found that actually it really just depends on how you treat the rice before it goes into the rice cooker. So if you're cooking brown rice, you're gonna soak it. You're gonna soak it longer before you put it into the rice cooker. Same thing with black rice, same thing with sticky rice. So it's really just about that preparation step, and you don't really need all those different buttons. And actually, even when we were cooking brown rice on a brown rice setting on this other rice cooker, like it wouldn't always come out perfectly. So we just think that you don't necessarily need one of those more expensive and more complicated rice cookers. Just a really simple one is all you need. Because this is very similar to the rice cookers that we owned in the 90s, where it was just one button and really reliable and dependable. Anyway, I'll get off my rice cooker soapbox and let's do the finger trick. If you have an irregular amount of rice, I'm going to show you the finger trick that'll allow you to measure the amount of water for that. So the first step is to rinse the rice. That's all you have to do. I mean, this is like one of those things where sometimes if I'm lazy, I just skip the step. Like, sorry to every Chinese mom, grandma who would shudder to think, but I sometimes skip it. But this removes some of the excess surface starch on the rice. It'll give you sort of more separate grains, and it washes it. So it's really just about washing it. So I'm gonna pour it off. I don't use a colander or anything. That just makes it more complicated. So I'm just gonna pour off most of it, and then I'll shake it, add the water, and I'm gonna just bring it to around there, and that just sort of helps me get the rice to a level place. So you wanna sort of like just shimmy the rice around so that it's level. And now I'll run the water again. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna put your finger on the top of the surface of the rice, and you're gonna measure the amount of water up to your first knuckle. So that's, oh, I think I let that go a little too long. But, so shake it again, put it down on a flat surface. It's basically there at my first knuckle. Maybe it's a little higher than my first knuckle, so I'll pour a little off. So when we're talking first knuckle, we're talking like here, guys, right here on your index finger. This is not exact, but it's really good enough that your rice is gonna turn out. I mean, it's worked for generations of Asian families, so here we go. There we go. That's it. So the tip of your finger is like resting on the top of the rice. That's how I was taught. I guess there are other people who were taught a different trick maybe, but that's how I was taught. And as you can see here, we put 2 cups, and this is like about, if there were a 2-cup line, it's about where the 2-cup line would be. And then you're just gonna put the rice in the rice cooker, close it, plug it in, and press the button. Okay, so what I really wanted to show you was the stovetop method. So since I don't think we wanna be eating like a million batches of rice, I'm just gonna take this rice from the rice cooker that I just demonstrated with, and I'm just gonna pour it into the bowl. What this method amounts to is, in order to cook the rice on the stovetop, you're gonna soak it. You're gonna soak the rice for about 15 to 20 minutes only. It doesn't take long. And this is gonna help the rice absorb water now. So as a result, it's gonna cook way faster on the stove. And the problem with cooking rice on the stove often is that the rice burns before the rice is cooked through. So this is gonna prevent that. A lot of recipes out there that you'll see use a 2-to-1 ratio of water to rice. And you just sort of put the rice and water in the pot, turn it on, bring it to a simmer, cover it, turn it down to low, and then let it cook. That sometimes will work, but it will often result in burned or undercooked rice. The reason for that is you're basically taking a completely dry product and you're wanting it to absorb all of that liquid in its time on the stove. This way, if you take the rice and soak it first, you're giving it time first to absorb water. That way on the stove, it's gonna cook way faster. And actually, once this is soaked, we only have to add a 1-to-1 ratio of water to rice. So this is 1.5 cups of rice that I measured out. So essentially I'm soaking 1.5 cups of rice. As long as the amount of water here is just completely covering and submerging the rice, this amount of water doesn't really matter. But when you drain it and add it to the pot, you're gonna add the same volume of water as rice. So we're gonna add the rice with 1.5 cups of water. And then do that whole shebang like I just said. So once it's on the stove, we're going to turn on the heat, let it come up to a boil, cover it, lower to a simmer, and it's going to cook very quickly, maybe in 15 minutes. Anytime I'm in a place like in an Airbnb or out camping and I don't have a rice cooker, this is how I cook rice. It comes out perfectly every time. This method is also a lot more forgiving. It's much less likely to burn, and because the rice is cooked so quickly, it really doesn't have a chance to stick to the bottom of the pot, so you're not gonna have that layer of just cooked rice stuck to the bottom that you have to soak in your sink for ages before you're finally just in there scrubbing with a Brillo pad. That's not gonna happen. Okay, so the rice has soaked. You're gonna want it to soak for 15 to 20 minutes, but longer honestly is okay. You're gonna see the rice grains are a little bit more opaque now. They look like a little more opaque white. And I'm just gonna pour off this water. There's no need to use a colander or anything. Just wanna pour off as much of the water as you can. I kind of just turn the bowls from side to side. Ooh. So there's a little bit left. I'm not gonna worry about that, it's fine. So I'm gonna put it in the pot. I have a spoonula here. And honestly, you could just do the soaking in a pot. You don't have to do it in a separate bowl. That's silly. Why did I do that? I don't know. Just do it all in the pot and then you don't have to wash a bowl. Every last grain of rice must go in, or the rice farmers will give you dirty looks. Okay. So everything. So now, this was 1.5 cups of rice, so I'm going to add 1.5 cups of water, so the equal volume of water. So this, once again, is one of those recipes that's like a formula, and basically you just take the amount, you take your rice, note the volume, soak it for 15 to 20 minutes. You can soak it longer, and then put it in your cooking vessel, add the equal amount of water, put it on the stove, and start cooking. So I have here a pot that has a clear lid so we can see what's going on. I'm just gonna turn on the heat. I'm gonna start at high heat to bring it up to a boil, and then I'll turn it all the way down, and the rice will be cooked in about 15 minutes. Okay, the rice is at a boil, so I'm gonna turn it down, all the way down to the lowest heat. And now we will set a timer for 15 minutes. Okay, here we are. Our rice is cooked. So I'm just gonna go at it with a rice paddle. Nice and separated grains, but it's fully cooked and tender inside. And that is how you cook jasmine rice without a rice cooker, folks. Either with a rice cooker or without. And there is your perfectly cooked jasmine rice. If you've been struggling with figuring out how to make rice either in your rice cooker or on the stove, there you have a pretty foolproof method. And it's not very difficult either. Pretty easy to do.